We welcome you tonight. This rainy night, the crowd is trickling in. I think more people will be getting here, but I think the weather is affecting us. We had to cancel. We're not having good luck with that. We had to cancel one last year. The hurricane hit that night. The year before that, a speaker got marooned in Flat Rock by a log in his driveway. Couldn't be here, so I'm hoping this cycle will break at some point. But we're glad to see every one of you here tonight. Our speaker tonight, as most of you know, this is the 100th anniversary of the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. This was founded by Carter Brown in 1925. We're going to be hearing, I think, a good deal probably about Mr. Brown tonight. And we have somebody that's supposed to be here that actually remembers him, Gerald Pack. But Gerald should be coming in any minute. He's out there, Joanne says. Okay, Joanne Gibbs, who was pointing to Gerald just a minute ago, is the president of the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. Joanne's lived in Tryon for 7 years, but is a lifelong rider. She's a native of Minnesota, and she's telling me that she made the acquaintance with Gerald and Betsy Pack very early in her residency in Tryon, riding their farm. And Gerald, of course, was a valued member of our board for several years here, and great all-around guy and storyteller par excellence. But I'll just let me one more thing. Andy Haynes is present tonight. Andy is going to be our speaker at the next Tales of Tryon, September 11th, right here at 5 o'clock. That's a Thursday evening. Andy is going to talk about a woman, among many others, who was very important in Tryon. Her name was Emma. Andy says with apologies to Jane Austen, but her full name was Emma Payne Erskine. She happened to be Andy's great-grandmother. And he is going to be talking about her and I presume other members of the Erskine family and maybe some other women who were significant in Tryon's history. But the centerpiece will be his great-grandmother, Emma Payne Erskine. And the Erskines moved here in 1890 what? 1892. So this is a big piece of Tryon history. Be sure you make it, mark it down now, September 11th, 5 o'clock, same place. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over. Wanda, yes, thank you. Wanda, I'll leave that down somewhere.
I've got it.
You know, I'm always putting things down and can't find it. You and Fran both know that. Okay, this is very important. Save the date. July 25th and 6th, am I right about that? Yeah, July 25th, 26th, at the depot, there is going to be a Rick Dunn estate sale. It's going to feature vintage Tryon Arts Colony and regional artists' oil paintings, watercolors, prints, and mixed media. Artists will include George A., Amelia Watson, Dinah Nash, Charles Quest, Rich Nelson, Gary Page, Robert Lawrence, Hansel Mays, and others. There will be a huge collection of local, regional, and vintage books. Many of them are first editions signed by the author. So this will be a 2-day sale on Friday and Saturday, the last weekend in July. Grateful to Fran Dunn, Rick's sister-in-law, for helping us arrange this. Fran's done a marvelous job trying to sort out the many pieces of Rick's estate. And the museum will be the beneficiary of some of this, and we are grateful to the Dunn family. But please don't miss this. Sale of a lifetime. Okay then, I see Mr. Pack just walked in, but I will turn it over to Joanne Gibbs right now. Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, Jake. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tales of Tryon. My name is Joanne Gibbs, as Dick said. I'm the president of the board of directors of the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. I'm the 33rd president, to be exact, over the last 100 years. When Dick called me about doing this talk, I thought, what a fantastic opportunity. It's our centennial year. What a great way to kind of get our story out to the community. I also thought I need to talk to Gerald. Gerald and Betsy Pack, some of my favorite neighbors, are renowned equestrians and are truly the Polk County equestrian community historians. So I'm super fortunate to have Gerald with me here tonight to talk to you about kind of the little known inside history behind the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. Maybe some things that you haven't already read. I mean, there's certainly a lot of history about the club that's out there. So I just wanted to start off with the early years. So 1925, the club was founded by Carter P. Brown, who arrived from Michigan in Tryon in 1917. Lured by the region's fine climate, the beautiful landscape, of course, some of the same reasons I came here. And he purchased a tuberculosis sanitarium, which he turned into the Pinecrest Inn. He also added later stabling, so he and his friends that fox hunted would have a place to stay when they visited the area. He was a man with a vision, as they say, and sought to conserve the land in the area while encouraging equestrian growth. In 1925, he founded the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. And interestingly enough, those tenets are the same mission and vision that the club has today about encouraging and supporting equestrian sport, supporting the community, land conservation. So we have, been consistent through the years with that mission. He is often credited with putting Tryon on the map, shaping it as a center of equestrian activities. In the century since he arrived, North Carolina has assembled the 10th largest horse industry in the country. Really something quite impressive, bringing billions of dollars into the state's economy, with that majority of that activity being centered right here in Tryon. He also started the Tryon Hounds in 1926, which subsequently became a separate entity and remains very active yet today. The horse shows, the Tryon Horse Show, Horse and Hound Show, started in 1929. And I'd love to have Gerald come up and talk a little bit about the horse shows, the history at Harmon Field, and kind of where that legacy started.
Okay, thank you. Have to be careful, we'll be here all day and all night. All day tomorrow. Good Lord. Well, sometimes when you grow up and live with something, it's very easy to talk about it because you get very ingrained in it. And my family is a very old family here. They came eons ago, starting in Boston to Philadelphia a year, started in Germany to Richmond a year. I had pack on both sides. It started in Berlin, and God knows how they got here. And then I fell out somewhere down the road. And my main interest from as long as I can possibly remember was my ponies and my horses. So I just fell right into the whole scope of what was here. And with Carter Brown, he was one of those people who, he didn't care who you were, from whatever nationality you were from, but he did care about one thing: your honesty and the type of person who you were right here.
Gerald,
He believed in...
can you put the
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
I get talking. But he did care about honesty and the type of person who you were. And he came here to visit a friend. We had a sanatorium, if I remember correctly. And he bought it because he wanted to have a place to bring people that he had as clients to an area for the winters. He had a place in Neenah, Wisconsin area. And so he had this dream, and the railroad had come through at that time, and it was easy to get here, accessible. So he brought them here. He bought it and he called it Pinecrest Inn. That was the name of the inn across the road. And there was a lady who, by the name Miss Edwards, who had the other hotel across the road here by the train station, and she was a cousin of my father, first cousin of my father. And she gave the first office for the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club here. So it was great. I mean, we had a little connection, right? And I remember a lot of people that had moved here bought a lot of lumber from my father because that was his business. And I remember going to Pinecrest, and my favorite thing was to go to the stable, see the horses. That was my big thing. So therefore, my first magnet was the horses. And I remember by going over to Mr. Reynolds, taking some lessons and so on and so forth. And the big thing back in those days with the Hunt Club, we had a Wednesday horse show. And the Wednesday horse show, all the schools in Polk County got together, the Boy Scouts parked the cars, and they had this wonderful quarter of a chicken that Mr. Brown had the guys at Pinecrest Inn to cook it, barbecue it over pits at Harmon Field, and that coleslaw, I think it was potato salad or something that came with it, and lemonade and tea, and everybody had a ticket, all the farmers and landowners that they hunted over, or in the Tryon charter at that time. And it was free, and everybody came to the horse show. And then as we went on with that particular thing, in about 1954 era, the first equestrian team was formed for the amateurs to participate because the United States Army, during that time, President Eisenhower said, "We will never fight another war on horseback." So they were going to eliminate all of the cavalry horses, which they did, and they would never fight another war on horseback in the United States Army. Well, fortunately, all of those colonels I was able to get to know at that time became some of my teachers. Now, those Army teachers taught the people who wrote the books, okay? Chamberlain, Littauer, Gordon Wright, and so on and so forth. Then, during that 54, 55, 56 era, I say we, I was a little kid at that time running around under everybody's feet with my ponies and so on. They organized the first Olympic team, the United States Olympic team, right here. Harmon Field was the main source where we organized, or they organized it at that time. And we were fortunate to have the people with Carter Brown, who brought them here, to help to, shall we say, pay the ticket or back it up. And we got a lot of other supporters from New York, all of the country, Virginia, so on and so forth, to back this organization up. And we, or they, changed the equestrian world to what it is today. There was one person at that particular time named Gordon Wright, who became one of my biggest supporters and teachers in my lifetime, until the day he passed away, that helped to organize it, to bring the people in, and the students at that particular time were his students that changed the equestrian world and made it what it is today. Now, the name of Tryon, and I've been to many countries since that time and dealt with many countries during that particular era. And the only thing that I have to say when they ask me, where are you from in the United States? And I I used that word Tryon, North Carolina. Oh, yes. We've heard of that. We know that word. So therefore, they moved me up a little bit. So, with following up on that, the Tryon International group now that is here, also using that word Tryon International, we it brought us back up to that particular level again. Now, Harmon Field was the place where these horses were trained, the riders were trained. The Olympic finals were held at the Cotton Patch, which is just right down the Packard River, right behind the town of Tryon here. And that's where the finals were held. And those horses, when they left here, at the old Air Force Base, which is on the other side of what is now 85, and the Greenwood-Spartanburg Airport is now. There was a big Air Force Base over there. And those horses left here on those Air Force planes, horses, riders, trainers, grooms, everything that went with them, went to Helsinki and changed the world. Right out of here. This church was here. The town of Tryon was here, and I was here. Big Candy Haynes was probably here at the same time. His family was here. But we're about the only ones left here. And thank the good Lord above, I was still a kid running around on my ponies, and I'm still here running around on my horses and driving my horses and being a part of the equestrian world that was set. I'm very proud to be a part of it. And yes, I live over on the side of the mountain over in Columbus, but we have been a very large part, and I'm very proud to say that we have been a big part of what that signs have said, the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. I'm not quite 100 years old. However, it's not far off. But I remember my first steeplechase that I ever went to. There was a lady named Lady Sturgis had her shot, and my mother always dealt with her. And we were invited because she thought that I was really interested in my ponies at that time. And she invited my mother to bring me over and bring it to her house. And we sat, and I went over and sat on the fence and watched those horses race. My first time. And sure enough, some poor jockey fell off, God knows, and he slid as far as we were in the back of this room. And the grass, of course, was very deep and didn't get hurt. But I remember Dr. Preston in the Jeep going down, picked him up and brushed him off, and said, "Oh, he's fine, put him back on," and off he went. Little did I know that I would be someday galloping horses and schooling them over that course at the block house. Myself, under Arthur Reynolds' care, of course. But it was, when you look back on all of this, and in 1962, I think it was, Mr. Reynolds said, "If you go get your clothes and come over here, I need you to help me ride these horses." And so we were talking one day about it. This was in 1962. And he used to make me teach a lot. And I told him, Mr. Reynolds said, "I want to teach all the time. I want to ride." He said, "You're riding well or better than all of them. You're going to see very shortly what you grew up with. It's not going to be here anymore, any longer." Well, lo and behold, in 7 years, it had begun to disappear, what I grew up with here. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Boarding stables are going to become very fashionable because these farms, people are not going to be able to afford them any longer. But they can afford to own a horse and boarding with people like you. And you're going to be able to teach and make yourself a living because you have the best instructors in the country because they're all here now, but they're going to disappear. And we were married in 1970, and sure enough, we were down to two stables. Two. One was mine, and the other one was George Webster's at that particular time. So my wife and I came up with a program that helped build back what is here today from almost scratch. The town of Tryon, almost, where the horses disappeared. Believe it or not. Then we came up with the Tryon area. It grew larger and expanded out. Believe it or not, when I was a kid, we used to ride right up through here. We had stables right down here by the depot. When I was little, people shipped their horses down from the Midwest, unloaded them right here, and rode them out to the stable. They rode one, led two. They would ship them from Miami up here. I can't think of the guy's name. We had the little boarding stable here. And then there was a black guy, we call him Slim, had a boarding stable right down below Rock Cleaner. Pinecrest Inn, they would board them up there with Mr. Reynolds and just ride them up the hill. Believe it or not, there were stables all up in here. But things change. Change is inevitable. I have seen so much change. I have seen so many people come and so many people go in the years that I've been involved in the horse world. When 26 came through, was the total change that almost killed us. It almost died. Totally almost died. I remember I was riding some horses for a lady by the name of Irene Tripp. Probably one of the sharpest ladies I ever rode for in my entire life. And we were thinking about buying a particular place. But we had a property where we live now. And I told her one day, I said, Irene, I think we're growing now, we need more space, and this particular place is for sale. She said, don't touch it. And my heart just sank. Because I thought it was the perfect place, the perfect situation. She said, no, put your money out here, buy more land, get yourself out to the road. She said, it's going to move right out here to you. Well, little did I know, she hit it right in the head. Right in the head. But the thing about it is, we have to learn to live with change. Little did I know that there was another expressway coming, but she did. She knew it was coming. She said, I've lived through this before. And with this change comes a different groups of people. And with these people, they bring different things to the table. Never did I think in my life that I would own my own pack of pounds for 40 years. But I did. And I enjoyed every minute of it. I don't know how I did it. Get up every morning and we had 35 horses looking us in the face, but we still went fox hunting 2 days a week. But it came a time when I wanted to do something else with my life. So we closed the door and did something else. But when you look back on all of this, and you look at all the people that you have dealt with over all these years, and I've had probably some of the richest clientele in the world. And I have given away to some of the poorest kids that ever thought they could never be able to ride a horse. And I gave it to them. I made it possible for them to participate. But I think that the whole thing comes around to being able to participate and enjoy what you have. And when I look back at Harmon Field, it breaks my heart to not be able to see it live and be a part of what it gave us today. It gave us what we have here today. When you look back on it, the people that it brought, and every time I go there for a horse show, it's like it puts its arms around you. But things change. We have to learn to live with it. But I think that, you know, as the story goes in verbal history, on my one side of my family, when they came here from Boston and Philadelphia, there were two brothers. They unfortunately were the ones who captured the Indians and marched them on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma. Here in Tryon. It's a very sad story. But at the same time, the whole thing, as Tryon was developed, and many of the Cherokee families stayed here, and Tryon turned into what it was, and the history in which it has developed over the years, is something that will stay here forever and be a part of the history of this western North Carolina area. Thermal Belt is a wonderful place. Nobody can tell you why it's here, but it's here. If you go over there just a little bit further, you go to land, you're out of it. You go over to Penile or Bee Ridge, you are out of it. It ain't coming back. But I think the history that we have here, that we have changed the world and the equestrian world, is so important that people don't understand. They need to know it. They need to know it. And the wonderful people that were here, that gave us the ability to have it, is just unbelievable. And we have to thank Carter Brown for that. He brought it to us. I can go on forever, but you know, it's a good place to stop, and I'm delighted to share this little piece of information with you. I wish all of you well, and I'm glad to have you come and listen. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Thanks for all the incredible history that, you know, we don't want to lose, do we? We want to make sure that that lives on through these talks that we have. And speaking of that, I brought along some interesting history in the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club board minutes. So they start, I think, in the 40s, and they go on to the late 60s. And it's fascinating reading when on your way out, if you want to take a peek at them. There's some of the original minutes from Carter Brown. And then the original days, like Gerald's talked about when they were meeting at Oak Hall, the Pinecrest Inn, etc. So it's some really interesting history if you want to take a look at that. We're also working with the Tryon History Museum to kind of add to our exhibit there. We recently cleaned out our office, you know, after a number of years. You can imagine how many things we've accumulated. So we're hoping to really add to the exhibit that we have there to share with the community. Just a couple of other items that I wanted to talk about that are sort of our signature events that the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club has done over the years. Of course, the signature blockhouse steeplechase, which started in actually 1934 at Harmon Field, moved subsequently to Fence in the 40s, ran there for decades before it transitioned to the Green Creek track. That event, of course, is undoubtedly what we're really connected with at the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club. But not to say that there aren't other events like the Tryon Horse and Hound Show that really has become, again, bringing it back to the community, really one of our key events that we love to keep active. That actually started, as Gerald pointed out, years ago at Harmon Field. It moved to Fence, a slightly larger venue, so we could accommodate more horse and rider combinations. I think I read the first horse show, Gerald, if you remember, I don't know, back that far. I think they said they had maybe 16 horses. It was like less than 20 horses that they had exhibiting at that show. And now we have upwards of 150, 160 horses over a 3-day event. Which is a really fun community event. We had brought back the Carter Brown Barbecue as well to that horse show. Brought back the Hound Show, which had sort of dropped off over the years, and we're hoping we're going to bring that back again next year. So it's a great community event. So I encourage all of you to come out and see the different events that we do at that horse show. We also, in addition to the equestrian side of things, we do focus on community events. So we have I believe it's the 92nd annual Any and All Dog Show that we hold at Harmon Field every year. That's a great, fun community event. And we get so many people that come to it year after year after year. So, 92nd. I mean, you guys are smiling. You probably have been to it. And, it's a great event. So, things like that, like the longevity, I think. When I think of the club, it's the longevity of it. That, when you're talking about the 97th annual charity horse show that we just recently held at the Tryon International Equestrian Facility. It's a heritage horse show, which they're quite rare in the equestrian world, especially with the show hunters. It's one of the oldest horse shows in the country that's run continually, and it's really quite a interesting and fascinating piece of history that you have in this area. We also have the horse trials. They were started in 1974 by Dr. Harry and Tippy Brown, and they were launched as a combined training event. So that is 3 components: dressage, it's show jumping, and it's cross country. Now we typically refer to it as an eventing. And that was the first official horse trials was held in 1976, and in 1985 that event was moved to Fence. We had renamed it, sort of rebranded it, Morris the Horse Trials, after Morris the horse. We have temporarily sort of suspended that when they were doing the 26-row construction near Fence. So there was a temporary hold on that event, but we're also reviving the horse trials. And in 1982, one sort of key thing that we had was that the club began awarding scholarships to local youth in the area, really reinforcing our philanthropic mission that we had as a club. So over the years, not to say that was the original piece, but over the years, and as these minutes will attest to, the club had funded various activities, the Boy Scouts and different events. So I think that's always been a really key component and key mission of the club. Along with the Carter Brown Barbecue, which I know Gerald talked about a little bit at Harmon Field in the early days, that it was started as a thank you to the landowners that allowed the club to fox hunt over their land, and it was a thank you to them. It was also a thank you to the community service workers, the firefighters, the police in the area in later years. And so we like to keep that up as a community event as well. We're hoping after Harmon Field, the restoration is a little bit further along, hopefully this fall, fingers crossed, that we can bring back the Carter Brown Barbecue as a community event. So not only for our members, but for everyone in the area to enjoy. And then a little bit more recent history. I think our focus has been a lot recently on community giving. We've expanded our philanthropy program to not only scholarships, but to equestrian grants as well. And community grants offered to both equestrian activities, rescues, etc., the Foothills Humane Society, PEER, but also to community programs. So the outreach, Thermal Belt Outreach is one of our, the organizations that we highly support, Steps to Hope, etc. And then some key kind of dates to call out. In 2014, as Gerald mentioned, the Tryon International Equestrian Center opened in Mill Spring. The Tryon Riding and Hunt Club hosts numerous events at that venue, starting with our charity horse shows. The second charity horse show, which will be held next week. In 2018, the Carolina Show Hunter Hall of Fame was started. It was introduced in a way to celebrate the horses that were developed in this area, that really made this area what it is today. And I think we've inducted perhaps 33 horsemen already to date in the few years that it's been in existence. And then, of course, the revival of the Carter Brown Barbecue. In 2024, as I mentioned, we have the 91st annual Any and All Dog Show. This fall will be our 92nd, and of course, this year being our Centennial year. We recently had our 100-year gala at the revitalized the Fitzgerald right here in downtown Tryon. And I know many of you attended that as well. And in closing, I just want to talk a little bit about what the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club has meant to the community. Is supporting the community, keeping the equestrian events alive, as well as being a sort of the glue that brings not only the equestrian side, but the community side together. We feel like that's a really important mission that we need to continue. With that, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Could you repeat, if they don't have the microphone, could you repeat the questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Will the blockhouse race be coming back?
That's a good question. I fully expected it. So we are continuing to keep our options open. We are in discussions with the Tryon International Equestrian Facility, which owns the Green Creek track. In fact, I just met with their chief operating officer not long ago, and so we are continually working on how we can bring the race back. So it is not something that we would consider to be a done deal, but we are definitely we know the importance of it to the community, and we're working on it.
So for those of us who are less involved,
Yeah.
like just what were some of the issues that that caused you to stop doing the block?
The blockhouse. So when we moved the event to Green Creek, which is a beautiful track, but Tryon International does manage the track, and they really manage the event. So we have been partnering with them, but some of the things it has become logistically difficult for them financially as well. So we really need a partner to do it with. The size of our club alone, we're unable to do it on our own. Unlike the days sort of perhaps back at fence. So we really need that strong partnership. Without them, it's very difficult for us to do. And so that's why we're working with them continually to see if that's something that they are interested in reviving.
I wanted to testify about something other than maybe the McCall boys or the Arledge boys or Gerald. Folks here may not really understand what a big deal the Tryon Riding Hunt Club's horse show was every single year. The entire town shut down for that event to happen, and also Tim Brown. The entire town shut down and everything was focused about that event. One of the reasons that happened was because it was down at this beautiful venue, of course, at Harmon Field, which had, at that time, the hedgerow field around it. It was really a picturesque thing. And those that were in attendance knew many of the participants because it was local families who were showing their horses and their skills in those situations. So it meant so much to everybody that was in attendance. These people weren't necessarily from far and away. Many of them, some of them were, but a large portion of them were people who you knew well and you wanted to see. You wanted to be there and be seen. It was one of the premier events of the year in Tryon. One reason I know so much about that is because it is held in late April of the year. In late April of 1947, my mom was in attendance at that event in one of those old box seats that surrounded that little hedge ring that was down there, watching her friends go around the ring. And when she suddenly said, "Well, I guess I've got to go back up to the hospital because my son Andy is coming." I was born during the Tryon Riding horse show on a Wednesday, and so you can say that I have very fond memories of the Tryon Riding horse show.
What a fantastic story.
Thank you. Like Andy, I have a story to tell. Bill McCall and of Arledge and I, and probably my brother Mark, we were the scouts that parked the cars at the horse show, at the steeplechase, at the cotton patch. And just, on a Wednesday closed school for the horse show, what a day. It was unbelievable. We were the ones who were parking the cars as Boy Scouts, and it was just spectacular. You mentioned something, Andy was mentioning something about some of the locals. You remember J. Arthur Reynolds and his children, Bucky and Betty, were the great equestrians that we went to school with, and they were great friends. And, it was a Tryon thing all the way. And to grow up with this happening at Harmon Field, it was amazing. Where the dog lot is right now, that's where we parked all the cars. And one of the things that was so cool, if you got to be an older scout, you got to be advanced out of the dusty field parking cars. And I remember when I got to move into the horse ring, sit on the gate and open the gate for the horses to come in for each class. That was the top of it. When you finally made it there. Remember that? You just sit on that gate and open the gate and let the horse in and close it up. There's a big edged ring around it. Oh, it was unbelievable. And the barbecue was right behind that. It was just spectacular. So to grow up with that was absolutely amazing.
the classic picture of the hedge ring as well.
Joe, I wonder what the relationship is between the Riding and Hunt Club and the feeder trails. And I've heard that the trails are not what they used to be as far as access, and wondered if you could talk a little bit about, I didn't know if they were a separate organization or how they're related.
They are actually, the question was their relationship with the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club and the feeder trails. They are a separate group. We don't have a direct involvement with them, but that's an interesting question. And since part of our mandate is about land conservation and keeping those sort of open areas accessible for all, that's an interesting thing we could explore with them. Thanks for that.
Is there the possibility of trying to use Harmon Field for more educational or training riding programs? We haven't had a show there for a while, it doesn't seem.
Yeah, that's a great question about using Harmon Field and sort of what are the plans for that. And in fact, I met with Brad Gordon, who is the newish superintendent of Harmon Field, and we talked a lot about the plans for the restoration, especially on the equestrian side, of course. So we've had a lot of input with him, and I'm working closely with him, and we are planning on various events there. Like, we strongly support Harmon Field and the history there, and we want to keep it going. And we talked about what events we would do there. Carter Brown Barbecue to start, kind of bringing the community back as soon as we can. And then next year, most likely, is when the equestrian side would be open and available for horse shows and things. And we're planning on doing maybe like 1 day or 2 day a weekend sort of a schooling show, a little smaller schooling show, and various horse-related events. They're keeping that side alive. Yeah, we want to make sure that, we participate. We have the history there. We're like this, so we don't want to see that go away. Yeah, absolutely.
This is Gibbs, what's the relationship between the Riding and Hunt Club and fence these days?
Thanks for that. We hold our annual Tryon Riding and Hunt Club show there each year. We have a good relationship with Tracy Hansen, who's their executive director, and we plan to continue to do that as well. And perhaps having a cross-country schooling day there, bringing that back as well, now that the sort of the highway work is done. Just another side note to the Harmon Field question. We had talked a little bit about, and since it's a Tryon History Museum talk, we had talked a little bit about perhaps putting that Harmon Field equestrian side as a national historic area as well. Perhaps exploring if that could be done. It's quite a legacy, and we want to try to keep that going.
Could you talk about the membership a little? Like, how much did it used to be? How much is it now? What do you want to grow it to?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So it's funny, reading through the old minutes, it's sort of one of the continual challenges. They had challenges about memberships and how do we keep the membership going, even back in the 50s and the 60s. And that's a challenge for us today. We have a dedicated membership committee within the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club that focuses just on that. Making sure we have engagement with the community, that it's not just about riding. Like, if you don't have to own a horse, you don't have to ride to be engaged with the club. We try to broaden our approach with the community to make sure we're welcoming to all. But yeah, it's something that we continually work on. Back in the day, you know, the membership fluctuated. Now we're probably at consistently about 150 or so members.
I want to give you one more picture from somebody who was here in the 50s to enjoy all of this. Picture this. That view right there, that horse show, the ring at Harmon Field. There was a time during the horse show that was a special moment, maybe the opening of the horse show. How many people know about the tally ho, the coach that's in the county museum? When that thing was rolling, there would be a time when the horse show was open, I think it would come in the gate. It would have the horses pulling the wagon. There would be hounds running all around the wagon. There would be guys and girls sitting on the coach in their fine red outfits, you know, and all the equestrian outfits they wore. They'd be on this thing, and this thing would come rolling into the ring to start the show, and it was a sight you wouldn't believe. Yeah, oh yeah, right. But it just that was the picture, and it was a glorious time. It really was. Yeah.
And the Tally-Ho coach recently moved to its new home in Columbus. We would love to be able to bring that out. I'm not sure it's quite stable enough to move around anymore, but it is quite a fantastic coach. It's very, very interesting history if you ever have a chance to get to.
It's one of a kind.
It is one of a kind. Yes, it's quite something. And I wanted to just bring back to the membership too, that we also have, as part of the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club, a heritage family sort of denomination. Wanted to point out the Brannons, the heritage family that are here tonight. Thanks for joining us. Heritage families were started, and you probably have more history on this specifically, and it was a combination of how many years you had been a member and how many years you had attended the blockhouse steeplechase. And if it was over, I think, 35, you were deemed a heritage family member. And we still monitor it today. It's not tracked quite as closely, but it's still a really key part of our history.
How many horses in 1925, and how many now when you go out to Jackson and all? It seems like it's grown. We have a rough idea.
Gerald might have it. Gerald might have a better idea. It's how many horses were around back in the 40s or 50s, 60s, compared to today.
I think that I can remember maybe 50.
Really, about 50. And now,
Wednesday, they would have about 50 or 60.
and now, by comparison, what we have, Harmon Classics just had a horse show. Gerald and Betsy's son Lewis. Right, 500 horses. Right. And that's, so on any given week at Kayak, there's 500-600 horses that show. So you can imagine all of the people that come along with those horse shows, supporting the community, dining at restaurants and shopping. It's quite something.
Hi, you've got community giving mentioned in the early thing, and I know you still do things now with scholarships.
We do.
And you can touch on that.
Yes. The question was about community giving and scholarships and what we do now, and it's a really important part of the club. And this year, in fact, I think we had more scholarship applications than we've had in, I can't even remember how long. So this year we've given out $10,000 in scholarships to local youth, and we also do a new equestrian grant program. So it's if you are attending say a farrier school or some trade that's related to the horse world, but maybe not college necessarily, a university. We're also focusing on that to kind of broaden our reach. And then on the community giving front, one key statistic that I like to point out is over the last decade, we've given back almost $500,000 to the community through our community grant program. So we fully support that and continue to do that. Are we late?
No, we're not late yet.
Okay.
We're about-
I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Any other questions? I love the stories that everybody has. Like those are just fantastic. Thanks for sharing those.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Gerald. Thanks, everyone. I think we had the best audience participation in this Tales of Crime that I've ever seen. I'm really impressed by how well organized you all were. We packed a lot into about 40 minutes and then left a lot of time for questions, and it has worked out beautifully. I think I'm forgetting to say something that I wanted to. That's usually the case. I do want to spend more time with you sometime soon, Joanne, talking about ways that we might work together. You brought up several interesting possibilities, including the Harmon Field historic recognition. I would like to pursue that. And just thank everybody for the story. I'm honored to have several legacy families here: the Brannons, the McCalls, the Packs, Hub Arledge, people who've been in this community a long time and contributed a lot to the horse scene here. And your input was valued. I think we would have had a larger crowd had the weather been better, but this worked out really very well because we could all have kind of big conversation together, and I'm pleased with it. Thank you for your continued support, and look forward to seeing you at our big sale the last weekend of July and at our Tales of Tryon talk with Andy Haynes on September 11th, right here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.